one against my family, having been set forth in 1987. But the reality is, having spoken to my brother before, napag-uusapan namin, di pa siya Pangulo, sabi niya, madidistract lang, mauubos ang panahon at oras dyan, pati yung ating resources kapag napuntahan yan. Tutukan natin ang pagbangon ng ekonomiya. And I think that holds true today. It's still not the most important thing for every Filipino family. I think a survey said a mere 1% was concerned about that. And top of mind was the struggle for food, for gasoline, for more humane cost of living, because it's become so terribly, terribly expensive. Issues like the PUV, the El Nino that has struck so many provinces. But if indeed the president, my brother, sees fit to change the economic provisions, the Senate is not against Chacha. It is not against the economic provisions amendments. It is not against even the People's Initiative. Huwag lang ganito. Huwag naman sa pamamaraan na ganito. It is misleading, deceiving. There are many issues that are involved. I think you had a voice clip saying that inducement and bribery could even be involved, technical malversation, all sorts of crimes of swindling and fraud under the revised penal code. Huwag naman ganito. Huwag naman tinatangay yung tao, binobobo tayo. Pagkatapos, talaga naman sinasamantala pa ang kahirapan ng karamihan ng Pilipino at kamangmangan. Because apparently it was not explained as you saw the form, many of us have seen it. It's all in English, and even legal luminaries would be want to debate on voting separately and jointly. These are very, very technical and legalistic matters.
So, do you believe that your brother, the president, is not behind the People's Initiative? He is not giving the speaker the go signal for this?
Yes, I think there is a go signal for the economic provisions. And of course, the Senate will go out and do its very best as per agreement earlier in January. However, they carried on and started restarted with the collection of signatures. It's very, very difficult to work when trust is no longer there. A 12 billion budget was inserted in the bicameral meeting. We never saw it. I hold the budget of COMELEC. The request was for additional funding for offices, for salary augmentation, and so on. Suddenly, 14 billion appeared in the final form. Why is it like that? So this is the problem. I believe, indeed, I am the president's sister. I am also a senator who has a bounden duty to protect and defend the Constitution and the Republic. I'm also a mother. So like you, we have a stake in the future through our children. And let's not forget, I am the daughter of Ferdinand Marcos. I am his firstborn. And I will never, never allow the Marcos administration to be used to once again besmirch his name and ruin his legacy.
All right. Now, you will not allow anyone to use your father's name and besmirch his legacy. You were also, I think, one of the first in the Senate to expose and accuse the Speaker as being behind the People's Initiative. In fact, you have even given an amount. You said at one point that the Speaker's office was offering 20 million to every district for the People's Initiative. Of course, the Speaker, to be fair, responded, and he said it was baseless. But what's shocking to many people is you're all from one family. Nag-uusap po ba kayo ni Speaker? Yan ang tanong ng marami.
Well, matagal na kami hindi nag-uusap. Dati-rati, siyempre, chika-chika, nakikita kami sa pagtitipon. But this is no mere family squabble. We're talking about the Republic and the Constitution and the heart and soul of democracy here in our country. Kung sino man ang nagsimula niyan, kamag-anak ko man o hindi, talagang tututulan ko. As I've said many times, we are the most fortunate family on earth. with the grace and blessing of a second chance. A second chance that was very, very hard fought over 36 years. 36 years of exile when you couldn't come home. 36 years na sabihin ko na napakahirap, hindi ko naman pinag-uusapan, natapong kami kung saan-saan dulo ng daigdig. Napakahirap nun eh. Pinaglaban namin to eh. And yet, here we are, hulog ng langit po, binigay ng Panginoon, a second chance, perhaps the last chance for my family to once again redeem itself. And really, family ties no longer have anything to do with this effort. And it's not just me, there are hundreds who suffered with us, who were loyalists and were somehow vaguely or significantly connected to the family, soldiers who were stripped of their uniforms and their honor, so many Ilocanos, Warais, that were ostracized. Even my children, we came back home and we were mocked and my kids would say, "Mom, why are they so angry? I promise I haven't done a thing." And they could never explain. So it's very hard for me to accept that it would be ruined in little over a year. Remember, Karen, I am also apparently the author of the Unity Team. Ipaglalaban ko yung pagkakaisa ng Marcos at Duterte. Because Vice President Sara has actually said and revealed that I brought her in and convinced her to be the running mate of my brother. And as she got roped in, we determined to coin the name, apparently from me as well, Unity. And I'm determined to salvage whatever shreds remain of that unity. It is good for our country, it's good for development, and for our future.
Okay, well, first I want to thank you for being so forthright this morning. But let's start with this. What do you think then is the real motivation of the speaker for pushing this if you believe it can affect the Marcos administration? Considering the president is his first cousin, right? Well, he's your first cousin, clearly, but what's his motivation? What's his game plan?
I have no idea, but it sounds very suspect. I am not accusing blindly. We saw photographs, we saw documents, we saw any number of screenshots from many employees attached to the House of Representatives Office of the Speaker. It was very, very clear. And curiously, I got sent some of them as early as December, before Christmas, where a timeline was very well delineated. The plebiscite would occur in June until July. And if we look back, it wasn't just December. In October, they were talking about it. The speaker was also boasting about it in the Iloilo Forum over and over again. So, nakaka-gaslight pag sinabi that they have nothing to do with it, because in fact all these communications offering the 20 million, 5 million for ayuda under DSWD, 10 million from I believe medical assistance DOH, and also cash for work or tupad from DOLE. They all came from the Speaker's office with names of employees, casual and permanent employees attached to his office or to offices very close to the Speaker. So it's a real quandary. Why is there need to be so deceitful and duplicitous about all this? There is nothing fundamentally wrong about wanting to change the Constitution. We should be honorable and stand up for our advocacy if that is what we truly believe.
Okay. Do you believe, Senator Imee, that the money, the funding that's being used to allegedly bribe or give out for these signatures, do you believe they're public funds? Could the speaker be breaking the law?
I'm still collating testimonies from different witnesses, but clearly the witnesses said that they had no understanding of what they were signing. First of all, English daw. Ano ba ibig sabihin nun? Di naman nila alam. At saka yung jointly and separately, like I said earlier, pinagdidebatehan pa yan, di naman maintindihan. Ang sinabi sa kanila, pag pumirma kayo, may ayuda. Yung iba, binayaran talaga on the spot. May 100, 1,000. Yung kanina sa voice clip, 1,500 a day kasi siya yung naglilikom ng mga pirma. And then the others were promised that they would get ayuda, the magic word ayuda, without knowing at all what was in there in the form. So we were compelled to conduct a hearing because we also have our own effort. There was an agreement early in January with Resolution 6 that subcommittee in the Senate would be established and we would do it properly. Because firstly, the Santiago case in the Supreme Court said very, very clearly, wala pang batas para sa PI. Kabisado na natin yung CONCON, yung CONAS, pero yung People's Initiative, hindi pa natin nagagawa sa buong kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. So gagawa muna tayo ng batas, doon nilalagay yung pamamaraan. What method, what process, what would be the guidelines, what exactly would be the safeguards. They said that the existing laws were inadequate and that therefore we have to make a law. So to my mind, why don't we first make a law? Let's hammer together, craft, debate, until we get a law, and thereafter produce this people's initiative that is properly done, that is in consultation with the people and actually addresses issues that concern the people. The cost of living, for instance. Why don't we go back to the problems of the average, ordinary Filipino family? Kami lang naman yata interesado dito sa jointly, separately, at kung ano-anong legalidad.
Okay, so let's move a little first to the economic changes because the president has said, and even some lawmakers have said, that the Constitution is so restrictive and it would make a difference. I think Joey Salceda even quoted that with changes in the Constitution, there would be, he quoted a 12%. I believe increase in income that would be for the country compared to the Senate's suggestion. He was really clearly quoting off his notes. But do you believe that economic changes first would make a difference to improve the economy and help the president?
Yes, I think economic provisions no doubt will be of help. But let's put it very clearly. I was the chairman of economic affairs for a while, and for the entire duration, I never heard the Constitution mentioned among the foreign investors. Ang lagi nila nireklamo was infrastructure, the extremely high cost of electricity, the endless red tape, and the insecure and unreliable regulatory framework. Nalalabuan sila, papalit-palit daw ang ating mga batas, lalo na sa mga buwis. So a change in the Constitution will not be a silver bullet and magically bring droves of foreign investors here. What would change immediately would be, in fact, exactly what they said: infrastructure, electricity, shipping costs, red tape, and too much bureaucracy, uncertainty. All of that need to be addressed as well. So this is my concern, that in fact it may not magically happen overnight. The other thing is, under President Duterte, we actually managed to change many restrictions in the Constitution without resorting to a constitutional amendment. And those three are very proud achievements of both houses of Congress. Firstly, the retail trade law, para makapasok, kahit maliliit lang, no? mga 24-hour convenience stores, little B&Bs, small restaurants, even those could be investments of foreigners. Thereafter, we also had the foreign investments law. Ako yun. So we expanded the areas where a foreign investment could come in. And then most controversial of all, we had the public services law, which covered telecommunications. Of course, now it's pending in the Supreme Court with the case. We did it, but we managed to do it, is the point. Now, they're bringing forth another step of 3, public services na naman. At ang alam ko na gawa na natin yan, basta hatulan na lamang ng Korte Suprema, tapos na yun, education, which is a little unclear to me, quite frankly, because you and I know that any number of international schools are operating happily with more or less Filipino students, and there are a lot of specialist schools, culinary academies, tourism, H&M, that are actually foreign. Let's see how we do that. And lastly, I was really perplexed by advertising because it's such a tiny industry, and I'm really baffled. Are foreigners going to be able to create jingles and copy in Tagalog?
No, and frankly, where will advertisers advertise when the largest meat network has no franchise? Where will they go? Well, you have too mainstream at this point. But you're right, the landscape is small.
The landscape is minute and education is really dangerous. Baka hindi na natin kilala yung mga anak natin, mga burst na yan, kung ano-ano sinasalita.
Okay.
Parang nakakatakot naman yata kung totally po.
Senator, so you've itemized the points, and actually at that moment you actually had the same argument as Christian Monsod. I just want to touch this before we go back to PIRMA lead convener Noel Oñate. Here is Senator Imee Marcos defending the 1987 Constitution, what some call the Cory Constitution. When you hear that, what's your response? Some people may find this ironic.
Yes, I started out saying that. Why have we become the defenders of the Constitution that was, according to many experts, designed to put an end to the Marcos dynasty? So it's really perplexing. But among many things, we all are committed to changing the Constitution at a certain point. But is it now? Is it now? Will it be good for all of us? Isn't the cost of living the most pressing issue for every Filipino family? While we talk about the Constitution, while there is this heated back and forth between the two houses, people are starving. Food is very, very expensive. Gasoline's gone up by 280 pesos again. The PUV issue hasn't been settled. And of course, we have the threats to our fishermen in the West Philippines.
So, Senator,
problema.
ang tanong ko nga, Senator, have you advised this? Have you told your brother this? At the end of the day, yes, he's president, but you are the older sister, and you clearly have a different point of view.
Well, I thought we had the same point of view. Nanggaling sa kanya yan dahil bago pa siya maging Pangulo, pinag-usapan namin. And he said, let's not get distracted and diverted there. All our efforts need to focus on the economy. Let's just get it back on its feet. And yes, I haven't seen my brother very much. I think you go to the palace a lot more than I do these days.
Well, once for the Van de Honor. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so you haven't spoken in a while. Is that correct, Senator?
Well, I've been on medical leave because I've had trouble with my eyes. And yes, unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to get together. But the reality is the palace seems to have become once more a snake pit. I notoriously said so during my father's administration. And I'm afraid there are many around who are not as deeply invested in this administration as I am, because I have my name on it. I have everything at stake with the Marcos administration. And I only pray for its success. It is unfortunate that there are so many who put their ambitions and their perhaps deceptions ahead of this desire to make it successful, not only for the Marcos family, because the success of this administration would clearly be a success for the Filipino people and the Republic.
Okay. Now, Senator Imee, I wanted to ask you, so many of your colleagues have said, Senator Coco Pimentel, Senator Chis Escudero, their message to President Marcos Jr. is, talk to your cousin, rein in on your cousin. So the ordinary Filipino is asking, hindi ba kaya gawin yun ng Pangulo? Hindi ba niya pwede pagsabihan ang Speaker of the House na pinsan niya, siya ang presidente? Siguro, Senator, mga 4 or 5 na nakausap ko na yun ang mensahe po sa Pangulo. So knowing both personalities, can't the president rein in on the speaker?
Yes, uh, it's a question I find very, very difficult to answer. Really, the president has done his very best. He actually called in both the Senate president as well as the speaker and said that the Senate would take the lead. Not once, but twice already early in January. And the Senate forthwith produced Resolution 6 saying that the subcommittee would be set up, pag-aaralan, tapos ikukonsulta lahat ng sektor, pagkatapos gagawa ng pamamaraan, magkakasundo. But what happened? Instead of a ceasefire or perhaps a stop at the very least, they carried on collecting signatures. They wouldn't stop. Anong klaseng kausap yun? That's what I am talking about, the erosion of trust and confidence between the two houses, because in front of the president, a deal was made that a resolution would be passed, they would sort out exactly the method, and everyone would be consulted. But this didn't happen. They carried on with more and more signatures, submitting them to COMELEC en masse, non-stop. So we requested a meeting with the president, the Senate president did, but it became very apparent that the president was very keen on getting the economic provisions through any which way. Perhaps he had been made to believe that this procedure was acceptable and that the non-inclusion or the exclusion of the Senate was legal, but it's clearly not legal. Everything we do is bicameral. Alam naman natin magpapalit lang tayo ng pangalan ng kalsada ng maliit nagbabicameral pa yung Congress at yung Senate. Ito pa ang kaluluwa at diwa ng ating demokrasya. Naku, wala daw yung Senate, sila-sila na lang daw. And another deal was made. Let's go back to the old Resolution 6. But the Senate President gets a letter from the Speaker saying, okay, let's go back to Resolution 6, but there will be an alternative PI na naman. Ano ba yan?
So the Speaker is really pushing for PI. It's even in the letters, to the Senate
very
President.
clear in the letter, alternative PI. Kami naman, paano mag-PPI? Wala nang batas na nagsasabi kung paano gagawin yan. Hindi naman pwedeng ganito na the Constitution is now for sale, Filipinos are now for sale, at aalukan mo ng ayuda, sasamantalahin mo, palibasa, mahihirap yung tao, palibasa, mahihirapan sila makaintindi ng legalidad at Ingles. O naman ganun, nagawa naman natin ignorante at bobo ang Pinoy.
All right. Now, Senator Marcos, interestingly, you caught Pirma lead convener Noel Oñate. I wouldn't say lying, I wouldn't go that far, but conveniently forgetting, right, that he met with the speaker. You first asked him, and he said, no, the speaker has nothing to do with this. I've never met the speaker, spoken. And then you flash a photo, right, of him in one of the speaker's homes for a meeting where I read the caption, it even said really, it's a staff meeting for the People's Initiative. Yun yung parang nasa ilalim ng photo. In that same hearing, tama, no, he admitted that they gave 55 million pesos in cash to, I believe, Greg Garcia in the hearing for the anti-EDSA ads, itong Chacha ads. Where did the 55 million come from?
I was taken aback, quite frankly, because that picture actually came from him. So we were really baffled. Pag makita mo yung screenshot, talagang Noel Oñate. Akala ko hindi ito sisipot. At akala ko, sasabihin lang niya ng kaswal. Nagulat ako nung sinabi niya na hindi daw sila nagtitipon-tipon, yung dalawang kongresista lang ang na-meet niya, sina Rufus Rodriguez at yung iba pa. And then, I felt compelled to show the photo, at which it became very clear, and he very quickly admitted that, in fact, it was the Speaker's house, and that the meeting was to do with the People's Initiative, as labeled very clearly, and that everyone was there. Saldico was there, and he was there, and the Speaker was there. So it's very, very hard to understand now that the House of Representatives is not involved. I know the House of Representatives very well. It is my home. I've been there. I was a congressman for 12 years. Naabusan ko pa yung batasang pambansa. So I know many congressmen who are objecting to this, who are very smart, very good lawyers, very upright. And they are really, really objecting to this and quietly and a little fearfully just cannot make a noise.
Okay, but the speaker being involved in any way, one form or another, even Zaldico, whether it's for advice, does that break the spirit of the People's Initiative? Is that against the law? That's the question there. Because I'm hearing some is, Karen, talagang kailangan mo ang politiko para to move in the districts. But sinasabi naman ng ilan, pag People's Initiative, dapat hindi galing sa politiko, walang involvement ng politiko. Is that clear at the very least with any COMELEC resolution?
Well, I think the People's Initiative is self-explanatory. Dapat manggaling talaga sa tao. Mga issue na talagang napakahalaga sa ating mamayan, sa mga ordinaryong botante, ordinaryong taga-barangay, mga pamilya. Dapat doon ang galing eh. Bakit ito manggagaling sa ating House of Representatives? Nakakagulat. So, of course, in the end, when there is any kind of voting, that's a political mobilization and we help. Pero where does it emanate from? All power derives from the people. So, as I said earlier, there has been a lot of unhappiness in the House of Representatives, many claiming that not all congressmen are created equal. Some are more equal than others. So there's always been some kind of dissent brewing. And unhappily, with this method, many are unhappy too. Hindi ko aawayin ng mga kongresista dahil kilala ko at bahay ko din yan eh, tahanan natin ng napakatagal na panahon.
Tanong ko lang, Senator Imee, briefly, no? Are you getting information that the President may want economic changes, but the House or some members of the House really are aiming for the political changes?
Well, they've been very candid about it. They've spoken about term extension.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I've spoken to many mayors asking, totoo ba ma'am? Magkakaroon ng extension of term. Baka tapos wala na po kaming mga minimum, maximum 3 terms. Wala na daw ganun. At tuwan-tuwa sila kasi promise daw yun pag napirma itong PI nila. Abay, sabi ko, wala naman tayong pinag-uusapan na yan. Bakit nauwi sa ganyan? It's all economic provisions. But between you and me, you think economic provisions such as the opening up of advertising would come from an ordinary Filipino? Parang hindi siya People's Initiative. At kapag ginamit ang pera ng bayan, DSWD, DOLE, ayan, yung DOH, ito pera to para sa mga nahirapan, tinamaan ng kalamidad, may sakit. Eh, hindi na tama to.
Okay, now, moving forward a little bit now, just a little last weekend, okay? So last weekend, the President had his own rally in the Philippines or People's Gathering, and former President Duterte had also his own gathering in Davao, in which the Vice President shuttled, in both gatherings, frankly, but you were in Davao. So now there seems to be a declaration of war. The Dutertes are now united. The former President, Vice President Sara, Mayor Baste, you've heard the accusations against your brother. And even Pantaleon Alvarez, who was once in opposition with the Vice President on Head Start, said, kakampihan niya yung taga Mindanao. So you have the Dutertes all united, and Ronald Llamas has said on Head Start, the Dutertes really pose a threat to President Marcos Jr. What are your thoughts?
Well, the Davao rally was scheduled way in advance. And let me be candid, I will do anything to salvage the unity. So that was my entire purpose, to go to Davao, attempt to speak to the Dutertes, and of course, chat with VP Inday, whom I haven't seen for a bit.
Yeah.
So it's very, very clear that my effort was simply to try and patch things up because, to my mind, the principals continue to work with each other very happily, except when interference from so many other pressures, influences, and other politicians come in. That's the problem. So I think saying that the Dutertes are now one against the Marcos administration is oversimplifying things a little bit. The vice president already issued a statement saying that she's grateful and to the president for his support and continues to abide by the 8-point agenda. She also said that she is not in agreement with all her relatives either. So there's the two of us now who are not really in agreement with many relatives, but it's not impossible. There is no need to be cookie cutter Xerox copies of each other. We can still work together. Regarding the accusations, you'll have to steer me away from drugs dahil wala talaga ako.
Tsaka wag na natin iuwi doon. Oo, wag na natin iuwi doon kasi nauwi sa
mayaman na
ganun
sila.
discussion eh. Oo, di ba?
Kaya ako na sila mag-bakbakan dyan kasi talaga ako wala akong alam. What
Okay.
heart-wrenching for me is the separation of Mindanao from the rest of the
Yeah.
Philippines.
But you see,
Nakakasakit naman yun. Pero,
Okay.
I know where it's coming from. I know exactly where it's coming from because I've been to Mindanao so many times. I'm Ilocana. And I've seen the roads in Ilocos Norte in stark contrast with the historic injustice
Yeah.
of Mindanao.
but then, I mean, you're bringing this up, but former President Duterte was in power 6 years. He's from
6
Mindanao. Right, but why didn't they could have done more in Mindanao?
They did a great deal in Mindanao. Davao is stunning and it's so
Yeah.
well developed and planned. And really, 6 years against the centuries upon centuries of deprivation,
But
neglect.
if one visits Marawi, if one visits Marawi, none of the residents are back in ground zero. I mean, but
Correct.
let's not get into this economic Mindanao debate. That's number one. Bringing up the secession of Mindanao, Senator, isn't this to make a point that I will cause you trouble? That's the message. I will cause you trouble, Mr. President. I will be the pebble in your shoe for 4 more years.
I don't
Right.
like to see it as a threat because, Karen, I've heard this secession of Mindanao many, many times out of sheer frustration and anger at the abject lack of equity, of injustice, really. It's been historical, and every Mindanaoan will tell you the same. And anyone from Luzon, like me, from the far reaches of Ilocos, can see the stark contrast. It's painful, it's unacceptable, and I understand. And
Yes,
even
do
if
you
you're
agree with the former president's proposal?
No, I don't agree. And as I said, it's heart-wrenching. I hope it never happens. It's horrible to think that the republic will be eviscerated, our entire archipelago, divvied up. And I also know and understand, even if I don't accept, the call of Mayor Baste Duterte regarding the president's
The resignation.
Right. I wasn't there. I had gone somewhere else in Davao to have a meal or something, and I was very taken aback. I think it came as a surprise. When I saw him later on, he said, "I'm very sorry," and I know where it came from. Talaga naman masisindak ka at sasakit ang loob mo kapag narinig mo, ikukulong ba naman yung tatay mo, ikukulong din yung ate mo, talaga magagalit ka. So, I know of that place where he's coming from.
Okay. Now,
So, I haven't lost hope. I continue to pray that we can put things together and that the unit team in some form or other will continue to survive and help the country in the future. Ang laking bagay. If we
Senator Imee, can you
we could
confirm
really
this?
develop.
Okay, my sources tell me that you can correct me if this is wrong, that at one point, former President Duterte wanted to speak with President Marcos Jr. and I'm not sure if you were the conduit to that. Was there an attempt like that and the president declined it?
Oh, I recall that the president actually met my brother for a long meeting last year. And my brother, we saw him after because there was a dinner with the senators, quite late, as a matter of fact, because
Yeah.
they had spoken for so long. And it was about the West Philippine Sea and how to establish good relations with both the United States as well as
But what
China.
about the ICC? I wanted to ask senators. Some are saying that really what's pushed the
I
former
think what
president
is
to do
not
this
pushed
is
through.
the ICC issue.
Yes, what was not pushed through was the meeting that I think President Duterte announced he needed or wanted to have with the president regarding the closure at SMNI. As regards the ICC, I don't recall that there was a meeting requested, but I do get puzzled. I am confused by the stand of the administration. The president says 100% no. The DOJ says, well, if they come, we'll entertain them, or they're just here as, I'm not sure, observers. Ano yun? Parang turistang namasyal, pero ini-interview yung mga testigo. Nalalabuan ako eh. Gusto ko talaga marinig kung ano eh.
Oh, so clearly,
Kasi para sa akin,
okay, let
the
me
entry of the ICC is a real affront to our judiciary, to our justice system, and to our sovereignty as a nation. I think we should oppose it with every bone in our body.
But do you think that's the trigger? That's what's pushing the former president to now behave this way?
Well, there's no telling, even by his own children, what President Duterte will do. He's a real street fighter. So what the triggers are, we're not always clear, but I'm certain that the ICC is among them. Certainly the inclusion of others, two senators, as a matter of fact, two colleagues, both Senator Bato, Senator Bongo, as well as the Vice President, complicates the matter even further.
Okay. Now, at one point, November 8, 2023, you were quoted as saying, you were in the Senate, through thick and thin, I'll stick with the Dutertes, right? You said this last year.
Yes, I will never forget, and I will always be grateful for President Duterte final allowance of my father's being buried in the libingan ng mga bayani. So, malaking utang ng loob namin doon at hindi ko kailanman makakalimutan yan dahil hindi naman popular yun na desisyon. Talagang naglustay rin siya ng political capital dyan. Maraming galit, maraming nagsasabi, hindi tama. So I'm very grateful for that. Maliban doon, hindi dahil kaibigan ko, no? Although kaibigan talaga namin yan, maliban doon, talagang kaibigan ko sa pananaw. Like my father, he is very insistent on an independent and sovereign foreign policy. Very proud to be Filipino. So,
So you don't agree, but you don't agree with your brother's foreign policy now?
Well, I have issues with allowing all the EDCA sites, officially 5 plus 4. Many say it's actually 17. I think they will be targets for unnecessary attack by other powers. And we have no fight with anyone, neither China nor the United States. But on the other hand, neither should we be compelled to choose between the two. Hindi naman
Okay.
natin kakaway eh.
My
Hindi
question
tayo
is-
sa right to survive.
But do you agree more do you agree more with former President Duterte's foreign policy on China?
I agree with President Duterte's foreign policy that is independent and sovereign. I do not see him as having been the lawyer for China.
See him as being too pro-China.
Many people perceive that, but to me, The propaganda has become virulent these days. Let us remember, we are a small, struggling island country, and China will always be our neighbor. They're a huge trading partner. We have no fight with them. Ang lapit-lapit po ng Ilocos Norte sa Taiwan. Ang takot po lang. Huwag tayong madadali. Let's not get dragged into a fight that's not our own. We
Okay.
cannot be a proxy for anyone.
All right.
And as much as we have cultural and emotional ties, even family ties with the United States, let us remember that their wars are not ours.
Okay. Now, when push comes to shove, I think the question now is, who will Senator Imee Marcos support? I mean,
Yes, like the United
are you
States
gonna
and China.
stand by your brother? Are you gonna
Yes.
stand by the president?
I will stand by what is right. I think that I was taught well by my father, and first there is God, then there is country, and then there's your family. So that order will have to be upheld, and ganyan talaga eh. Yung mali, mali. Yung tama, tama. Mahirap man, talagang tuloy-tuloy na lamang yan. Talagang tiisan tayo, at alam naman natin, napakahirap. Pero kailan ba dumanas ng madali ang isang Marcos?
Okay, you are seen right now by some as a house divided, although you are hailed as being independent. So, personally, as a senator, I read the comments on social media, and you are being praised for your independence. But then, politically speaking, you have some that have said the Marcoses are a house divided, unlike the Dutertes today. Your thoughts on that?
I think we're oversimplifying and attempting to paint a contrast that's not really there. As I said earlier, Vice President Sara once more last night reiterated that she doesn't abide by all the opinions and feelings expressed by her family members. And in fact, she is proud to work alongside my brother and supports the agenda wholeheartedly. So nagpapasalamat pa rin si VP at talagang tumatalima siya sa paniniwala ng kapatid ko. Ako naman, hindi naman ako tumututol. Sabihin natin, hindi ako nakikipag-away, Mr. Speaker. I'm just giving advice, pinapayuhan ko lang at pinagsasabihan kasi ako ito eh. I have to express this, and I think it's unnecessary to be misleading, deceiving, and even inducing poor and ignorant Filipinos to sign something they don't understand.
Okay, my last question, we don't have enough time, but you could have gone on for 2 hours, frankly, is this. If the president is watching now, I know you haven't seen him in a while. Well, he's just probably come back from Vietnam. I think that's the latest report, right? What is your message to President Marcos Jr.? Because you would want him to succeed. So what is your message to him?
Well, I've said it time and again, to stand firm and put an end to this PI that they started. Until now, he says that we need to study it, consult legal luminaries. The COMELEC on its own has also said that the signatures are still alive. There's no deadline, there's no expiry date. They can be reused and recycled for a future effort. Naku, wag naman, isang tabi na yan. It was illegally and unconstitutionally obtained. Huwag tayo papayag. So perhaps you can make a very firm and clear-cut stand, put an end to the PI, and let's do this properly together. And there will be no controversy. Also, with the ICC, let's have the DOJ and all their employees, undersecretaries, and what have you, echo the president's message that there should be an end to this. This should be clear. Government can't go rogue and everyone is just saying different things. It is most confusing for us and most of all for foreign investment. Business does not like unpredictability, unreliability, changes that come from nowhere. So, yun na lang, siguro sasabihin ko, magalit ka na, bongbong. Ilang beses ko na sinabi yan. Magwala ka na, mabait ka masyado, pero kapag ang isang tao ay mabait, hindi naman dapat sinasamantala, di ba?
All right. That's a sisterly closing message for the president who is your younger brother. Magalit ka na, pero ang mabait, hindi dapat sinasamantala. All right. On that note, Senator Imee Marcos, thank you so much for joining